Meeting started for Wednesday, May 14th. Any public comments? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for April 16th?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 16th meeting as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Contract award, Lakewood Avenue Water Main Extension, Mr. Burks.
Yes, sir. Lakewood Avenue is in Glynn County, just north of the city of Brunswick city limits off of Community Road. There's currently 685 feet of water main installed off of Community Road. There's one section here that does not show up on here for whatever reason, never got drawn in. But there is a fire hydrant here and a valve, so we know there's a section of water main between this valve and that valve. So we have 685 feet. This area here is served by private wells right now. We've had multiple customers indicate to us that they're having issues with their private wells. Customer about 360 feet from the existing water main has requested service and contacted J.H. Stone Construction to install a 2-inch water main to his property, which is all that would be required to run in the public right-of-way. Given the need for additional water services in the area and the failing wells, we approached J.H. Stone about installing an 8-inch water main and then allowing the customer to tap off the 8-inch water main. So the cost to install, and it's going to be 560 feet, not 360 feet, so that we could get the 500-foot spacing on our fire hydrants. So it'll be a 560 feet, an 8-inch water main, a new fire hydrant, and a flush connection down there that would be installed. The customer is going to provide J.H. Stone with the original amount, $7,500 for the 2-inch connection he was going to pay him to install, and the cost net of that is $55,000 for Joint Water and Sewer to install the 8-inch water main and the fire hydrant. This is the first targeted area we were going to do with SPLOST funds. We'll come back at a later date to complete this area, but given that the customer is needing service now, is going through a demolition process and a reconstruction, I'm going to go ahead and get this first section in, and then we'll come back later for the remaining once we can put that out for bid. So the cost is $55,000, and this will be paid for by SPLOST proceeds.
I'll move the Finance Committee recommend awarding a contract to J.H. Stone Construction, Inc. in the amount of $55,000 for the Lakewood Avenue water extension.
Second.
Dawson is the customer?
Dawson is the future customer, yes.
Are they financing that amount, or they're doing it up front?
They're doing it up front to Joe Stone. To Stone. We're just paying the difference. Rather than them putting in a 2-inch main and us coming back later with an 8-inch main and ripping their 2-inch out of the ground, let's go ahead and put the 8-inch in the ground so we don't have to duplicate efforts.
Contract award on-call boring services.
Yes, sir. We've done this. We did this contract 3 years ago, where we have prices at that point for 4 pipe sizes: 2-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch. Water main installation and sewer main installation via directional drilling. This is almost exclusively utilized by the water, just because it's used mostly for galvanized replacements. We added in the bid this time 12-inch and 16-inch lines as well. Most of those would be for casings under GDOT right-of-way as required to put the smaller water mains in. We got one bid back. It was from TB Landmark Construction. You can see there the prices per line size. This includes only labor, tools, equipment, and incidentals. We provide materials as a portion of this contract. They have 3 weeks to schedule the work once the purchase order is approved by Joint Water and Sewer. All permits are the responsibility of the contractor, and this just allows us to do some of these small project needs without having to get individual pricing for every job. TB Landmark has done significant amounts of work for us in the last 5 to 10 years, and they are very eager to get started on this. They've already asked us which work would be the first ones out of the hopper, and we've got 2 or 3 ready to go. So staff request to award a contract at the shown prices for these directional drilling installations.
I move that the Finance Committee recommend awarding a contract to TB Landmark Construction Incorporated as listed in the attached bid tabulation.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions?
I have a question, Mr. Burrows. So in other words, they'll come and they bore a hole and then we put the pipe in?
Right, so what they do is they'll bore the line and then they pull the pipe back through the hole that has been made. So we'll deliver materials on the site to them.
Right.
And then they will actually install the materials we give them.
And then we do the connection afterwards?
We do the connection afterwards, that is correct.
So it's ready for us to
They chlorinate the whole nine, we're ready to go. All we gotta do once they're done is tie it in.
They do the chlorination?
They do the chlorination and everything, yes, sir.
That's it.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries.
I will note, I didn't bring this up at the facilities committee, but the jump from 12 to 16 is because that takes a larger boring rig to do a 16-inch line than the 12 and below. So that's a second rig they gotta bring in to do that.
All right. Surplus inventory, Mr. Burrows.
Yes, sir. Now, Commissioner Cook, you may have to help me with this one. But we had to go through a server change out last year or year before last because the server licenses and equipment was being obsoleted by Microsoft. So we got all new servers. So other than the telephone server here, all of this is for our IT background. And this is to dispose of those old servers off of our fixed asset register. They've been fully depreciated. And these will likely, because they are obsoleted and the software is not supported anymore, these will likely be recycled with electronics recycling, but we have to get them off of our register before we can do that. All of these have been replaced and are no longer functional. So if you have any specific questions about these things, I am probably not the person that's going to be able to answer those for you.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah. Commissioner Cook can probably tell you a whole lot more about this than I can.
I'll move, are you ready for the, okay, I'll move the Finance Committee recommend approving the above listed items as surplus to be disposed of in a manner most beneficial to the JWSC.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Just as a side piece of information, when I worked for the city in South Florida and we did regular computers, they were bought up within 10 minutes of the bidding going on, and they were in South America the next day.
So maybe we put it on Gov Deals and take a shot.
So who knows? Something like that.
Mr. Owens, thank you.
Good afternoon. We have the financial statements for the month of April 2025. Starting off with the balance sheet, we saw a decrease in cash and cash equivalents of about $234,000 for the month, putting us at $2.5 million. And that was basically offset by cash moving into the bond sinking fund of $246,000, bringing that total to $2.8 million. Total current assets had a net change of a decrease of $55,527 to put us at a balance of $11,762,000. The restricted cash accounts are reserves, normal reserve activity happening there, funding of the JWSC reserves, capital reserves was overfunded, so money was taken out of that. That put those accounts at $39.5 million and $13.395 million. The SPLOST account saw normal deposits from the county, bringing that total to $6.763 million for April. And the total net change of restricted cash was only $13,596 over the month of April, bringing us to an April total for restricted cash of $69,420,409. In capital assets, the largest change we saw was in construction in progress. A number of projects had costs that were incurred, including Brunswick-Glynn sewer extension of about $417,000, Highway 17 North pump station, around $500,000 for that, Canal Road, $333,000, and the Exit 42 elevated storage tank, $213,000. All total, construction in progress increased $1.8 million in the month of April, bringing that total to $40,769,000. The total current, excuse me, total current on capital assets is $203,682,089. Let's see, on current liabilities, the same projects also contributed to an increase in retainage payable. And the retainage payable increased $128,000 for the month. And our current liabilities had a total net increase of $109,000 for the month, bringing that to $9.787 million. No significant change in long-term debt, and total liabilities had a net increase of $116,000, putting it at $78,445,965. Nothing of note on page 2, so we'll go to page 3, which is our revenue and expense summary. Operating revenues increased to $3.58 million for the month, a normal amount. The only thing of note in the revenue section, we had interest income of $404,000 for the month. $150,000 of that was fair market value adjustment on our investments. The rest was normal interest activity on our cash investment and other reserve accounts. In operating expenses, most of our expenses were pretty much in line with expectations. We did see some small decreases to the monthly average, but nothing out of the ordinary. Capital costs did decrease $14,527. That was basically a refund from Humboldt on a electric, can't read my own writing, some kind of gauge that we returned.
That was for a compaction tester.
But yes, bad debt expense actually saw a smaller than normal increase of only $12,200 for the month, putting that at $440,945. And basically our net revenue is currently showing as a negative $2.127 million for year to date, as of the end of April. Of course, we did accelerate, as we've reiterated in these meetings before, we accelerated payoff of the VATCON leases and the pension, funding of the pension, to bring that up to 100% funded. Moving on to page 4. This is just further same information with additional breakout of the operating expenses. Everything seems to be following the normal monthly pattern that we see for operating expenses. Wastewater treatment leads the pack. Its total expenses year to date, $7.89 million. About $804,000 of that occurred in April. I did notice, basically, interesting little fact, oxygen being the largest expense by far in wastewater treatment, even exceeding wages, regular and overtime wages. For comparison, we spent $1,658,000 on oxygen so far this year. For wages for our employees, we spent $1,112,000. So basically a $546,000 difference between those two.
I will say, note the oxygen the last 2 months is down about $15,000 a month from where it was at. So we're working that number down with our process improvements. Expect to see that number continue to trend in that direction as we continue to move forward.
We did see $254,000 in cost activity within the purchasing division, but almost $200,000 of that was roofing and landscaping encumbrances that were recorded.
The annual landscaping contract.
Moving to page 5. This is for a more detailed breakout of the cash activity that we saw on the balance sheet. As indicated, normal activity in the revenue deposit account, that decrease of $235,000, which was similarly noted on the front page in the balance sheet. Repair and replacement reserve, that's where we saw the largest increase of both interest and fair market value adjustment, changing, basically gaining $196,000 for the month, putting that particular reserve account at $24.4 million. And the interest on the bond, the construction fund, which is our bond trustee reserves, that was $22,000 for the month, putting that balance at $6,665,000. Did a quick calculation, and we're basically earning 4.25% on that, those reserves. Continuing on to page 6. Yes, the capital improvement fee, as I noted, or in fee reserves, as I noted previously, this was overfunded, so we moved $640,000 out of that into cash, and the SPLOST account seeing $283,586 for the month. A little less than some recent months, but perfectly within normal activity range. Moving to the next page, page 7, our investments. Quick schedule. We didn't have much in the way of investment activity for the month of April. We're looking to see investments that will mature and be replaced this month, 1 or 2, I believe. And currently the yield to market on the total portfolio is 4.12%. And then last but not least, the project report. The biggest...
Can I go back for a second?
Oh, sure.
I wanted to ask you a question on the municipal bonds.
Mhm.
So as those mature, then we are transferring that money to...
Mostly everything that we've been buying is U.S. Treasuries at this point. We haven't done...
Right, I see there's one like Wisconsin, with, you know...
Right. Yeah. Yeah, these...
So what happens when that bond matures and we have the money?
It rolls into cash, and based on the parameters that we've given the bank, they will invest that in U.S. Treasury securities for us.
Oh, okay, that's why I was wondering if it was kind of, but they let you know when you make a decision about...
Oh, yeah. In fact, I have a lunch appointment scheduled with our representative within the next week or 2.
They pay for lunch?
They may.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
We'll eat cheap.
It's definitely not an airplane, though.
Yes. The only big activity we saw on the project report was $7,597,000 in new encumbrances on the SPLOST Exit 29 project. Other than that, everything was pretty stable and no real change. We did, just to note, we did get approval for some ARPA grant funds that we've asked for reimbursement on from a previously awarded grant. We actually saw that come into our bank account today of $1.2 million. So we'll see that reflected in next month's financial presentation.
That's from the UV installation at Academy. No, that's we got a grant, but you have to front the money and request reimbursement. So this is the last reimbursement because we're out of grant funds, but we got all of that reimbursement back.
And I'm putting the finishing touches on our FEMA reimbursement request for Hurricane Helene. I've asked for a little bit of clarification because after adding in rental equipment and our VATCONs, we've currently reached a total of just over $600,000 that we'll be asking for reimbursement on. Depending on what level, what they approve, we would expect 75% of that come back to us.
Questions?
I have a question on the financially. Typically, I know that when it's like a government entity, the last month or 2 months of the fiscal year, there tends to be some restrictions on uses of purchase orders.
Right.
Do we have something like that in place here?
We don't have any formalized restrictions, but the focus, because we don't roll purchase orders over, so the focus the last couple of months of the year is on closing out those existing purchase orders, and if you can't close those out, we're not going to give you any major purchase orders on top of that. So we have some small stuff that comes up naturally, but not a lot of large purchases the last 2 months of the year, unless it's just going to be an emergency type situation.
Right. So there's probably additional scrutiny on any
Yes.
request.
Absolutely.
particularly in-
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I mean, I know that's pretty standard procedure,
Yeah.
particularly in government.
That's why it seems odd, but the highest expense month of the year is always June because we're pushing to get all those
Well, yeah.
purchase orders closed out.
And another question here is, I know that, like in the past with the generators, we got a lot of money from the federal government, and that doesn't seem likely to be very much in the future at this point. I'm glad we got all of those things done. And I know the other day when the governor was signing the bill, they were already talking about having a special session because they may need more money.
Right.
Because of, because of the federal government cutting. So I don't know if we're gonna get the low-cost loans like we did for the meters. So I'm very glad we got a lot of major projects behind us here, and it's really useful. And I hope we can count on something again, but we'll see. Remains to be seen.
We're in communication with FEMA, obviously,
Yeah.
GFA, a lot of the state and federal offices where those opportunities are available. There has been some delays in funding on some of those things from the federal level, but so far the state has still been very active.
We'll take it if it's there, for sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved.